The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced?
Stop right there!
From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
They let us play with all our toys, they let us think that we're big boys, they let us make the louder noise, but women rule the world. They let us think we're Superman.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on iTunes and TuneIn. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you. I will stop till I reach the top just to be there with you.
Dave, oh Dave, are you playing with Bigfoot and aliens again?
Dad, you gotta stop haunting the ghost. It's scaring them.
All right, seriously, put down the pointy sticks.
Oh, the deeper I fall.
Okay! Game on! Game on! Game on!
The password is...
All right.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot, Dave is ready for liftoff.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you.
Seriously, Dave? Really? Aren't you a little old for a tinfoil hat?
Hello, Toby. Bye-bye. Nephew. Bye-bye.
Please take your seat about there. We'll let the entrance. Prepare for pickup. Start. 2, 1. Boost ignition and lift off.
I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall. The deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and it's good to have you along for the ride on this Friday, April 7th, Saturday, April 8th. If you're on the East Coast or across the pond, hope you've had a great day and night. We are live right here in Uncle Jimbo's cabin, right here in the Great White North. as we are live 7 days a week right here, right now. Let's welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Newton, Georgia, at spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, Renegade Talk Radio, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on Revolution Radio. If you like our music, you can thank our resident guitar god, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. Bumblefoot rocks us in and out of every single show as our official music. Hey, if you're a social media junkie like I am, do me a favor. Follow us on Twitter. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. We're also on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. Of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. And if you head on over to patreon.com, that's Patreon, patreon.com, you could become a patron of Spaced Out Radios for as low as $1 a month. If you want to take part in this show, we do not take phone calls. Sorry, we just don't do it. But if you fill in and sign in to one of the chat rooms, a plethora of chat rooms that I follow, you can do so on our website. Click on Listen Live. You go right to the chat room there. You go to Revolution Radio. If you're on Spreaker listening in, you can do that as well on the UPRN chat room or on Facebook if you're one of the luxury members of the SOR Space Travelers Club, or if you're on Twitter, use the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. I will get to your questions and comments in there as well, so make sure you do me that favor. I want to connect with you, and I know Keith does too. If you head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, for just $5 a month, you can become a member of the SOR Space Travelers Club. We offer decent swag and a bunch of little things that we are building on, so it's kind of exciting. We also have a brand new news section on our website, courtesy of our editors, Eric Markham and Everett Themer. If it's weird, if it's strange, if it's paranormal, check out The Encounter Online. My blog that I write every week is on there as well. And if you've had a sighting that you can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Researcher Mike Schmidt is ready to find out what's going on with you. We are live on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Newnan, Georgia, the home of The Walking Dead. We are also live in New Orleans on 107.7 FM, the United Public Radio Network, and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us. If you are listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Take the time to visit freedomslips.com and donate today. We're also on Renegade Talk Radio as we are live in Las Vegas as well. It's the first Friday of the month, and as we begin the first week of April and end it just as quick, it means it's time for our resident ET expert, R. Keith Andrews, to come back with his knowledge of those from the other world. If this is your first time hearing Keith speak, you're in for a treat. He answers all questions you have regarding contact, so you'll need to do us a favor. Make sure you're signed into one of the chat rooms. Type your questions in capital letters so we can get to them as quickly as possible. Keith has been in contact or seen over 30 different extraterrestrial species. He has had the good, the bad, and the ugly in his interaction with what he calls the off-worlders. It's not something he'd wish upon his worst enemy, but it's something he deals with on a daily basis. Keith, tonight we'll be discussing one of the more intriguing aspects of ET contact, and that is those who have actually been healed from everything from injuries to disease. It's been a month, my friend. Keith Andrews, we welcome you back to Space Out Radio. How have you been?
Well, cancel out the normal issue of heart attacks and what have you. I'm actually doing not bad. Glad to be back here. Glad to see so many familiar faces in the chat rooms again.
Absolutely. We love having you here, my friend, and I know you've been going through some health problems lately, so from all of us at Spaced Out Radio, we want to wish you a speedy recovery and make sure that you're doing okay as well, bud.
Well, I'm doing my best. They keep telling me if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger, so I guess that makes me pretty much indestructible.
Well, you do have one compliment going from Deb on Twitter at hashtag SpaceOutRadio, because when we posted your picture, she's posted, "Oh my God, he's so cute."
Well, there's a new one. But thank you very much.
You're going to have to send her an autograph or some flowers or something.
Well, that requires contact and that sort of thing. And let's face it, that's the off-worlders it's easy for me to connect with. Don't necessarily connect that well with the terrestrials. Yeah.
I hear you. I hear you all too well, my friend. I really do. So besides the health issues, how's the life been with the contact? For a lot of people who haven't heard you speak before, you know as well as I do, Keith, you've been here long enough knowing that every time you come into this show, we seem to have more and more listeners tuning on in. So we got to keep reintroducing you. How often does contact happen with you?
Twice, it depends on the type, but if we just blanket it all together, twice, maybe 3 times a week. Probably more often than not, it's just I've gotten so used to it now that what most people, like many people that have contact, especially from a telepathic standpoint, they really question whether it is a real thing or not. But after the length of time I've been doing it, I just don't question anymore. So when I start getting input or I start getting the information, and of course, going off-world, well, let's face it, that has its own trials. Talk to any of your listeners that have actually been taken off-world. It plays absolute havoc with your healing. One of the biggest issues you run into is potassium crashes.
Carry the bananas with you. Carry the bananas, my friend.
That works really well unless it's summertime, and then it's not necessarily a good idea depending on where you live.
Absolutely.
But the other one I end up with is protein crashes. And for me, that's a much bigger problem.
Now, Keith, there's so many aspects to ET contact, and we're going to get into a bunch of them tonight. But when you have contact, is it usually in the spiritual realm, or is it physical, where you're seeing them with your own very own open eyes?
Well, in all fairness, it's if we take a look numbers, I guess you'd put the usual in either the spirit or the technological, the clairvoyant side, or holographic is actually more accurate. But it's frequent enough on the, I'm looking at least, quite frankly, once a week anyway, getting off this planet. I made the request when I was a kid that I wanted to get off this planet. Should have thought about it and told them not to bring me back, but You know what, though, Keith? That
makes a lot of sense, though. And a lot of people may say we're crazy, but you know what? When I had my close encounters, I can honestly tell you that my wife and I have actually sat down, and I have said to her, I said, look, if I ever have a landing that close to me again, or if I'm face to face with extraterrestrials again, like I was with Samantha Mowat back in April of 2014. And by the way, just so you know, on Monday, it will be the 2-year anniversary since I had that situation happen. It's one of those things where you have to have that talk. You have to have that talk and understanding. And I've told my wife point blank, I said, honey, I love you. I love the kids. But if by chance I get that opportunity again, please know that I have to go. It is just something that I have to do. Because if I knew then what I know now, I would have been a hell of a lot braver, Keith. I would have been a lot stronger mentally to understand that I knew my contact was benevolent. And trust me, people, you can tell. And Keith, I'm sure you understand what I'm saying with that.
Oh, I know exactly what you're saying. The reality is you can tell if a contact is benevolent or if they're malevolent. The real danger point I find is the number of people I talk to that go, oh, I really want to have an experience. I don't care with what race. I mean, talk about playing with dynamite. But the reality of it is that, most people, we talk about this idea about, how if I'd have known more or if I'd have been warned, I'd have been braver or I'd have definitely gone. And, I've seen some of the strongest people I've ever met on that same thought line buckle under the stress of meeting something that off. It's hard enough meeting the ones that look human or behave at least relatively human. It's a whole different ballgame when you deal with the ones that don't.
I have to laugh at Tripp's comment in the Spaced Out Radio chat room on Spreaker. He says, Captain Dave's going to be hanging off the back of the next UFO like a pissed-off ex not wanting to let go. That, my friend, is great humor for tonight. Absolutely great humor. So thank you, Tripp, for the good laugh. I did have to mention that because that had me snickering when my microphone was on mute. But you're absolutely right, Keith, and we've talked about that numerous times on this show about how people always say, I just want it to happen, man. I don't care if it's good or bad. But it is a be careful what you wish for situation. It's the same thing with ghosts. If you're dealing with ghosts, if you're going into a place where there's demons and all sorts of black parasites in there, you have to make sure that you're being protected, being careful. You just don't go walking in there. And it's the same thing with extraterrestrials, isn't it?
Oh, very definitely. Absolutely. Because one of the biggest issues that you run into is when you're asking to run into these people. Picture, if you will, taking the worst human on the planet, and he's in a good mood, but the worst human on the planet is going to scare most people. Okay, because you got to remember, especially on first contact, it's as unnerving for the off-worlders as it is for the, as it is for the, if you will, contactee.
Absolutely.
Okay. Because, let's face it, they don't know if you're going to be one of these people that's going to relax and go with the flow, or if you're going to get violent, and let's face it, you've seen a Gray. They're not the most sturdily built individuals. If you go ballistic, they cannot physically compete with you. And unless I miss my guess, Dave, not really like a Golden Glove boxer here.
No, you're right. But a couple things we do have to bring up, though. Last night, Bill Hauser, who's a good friend of this show, he's in the chat room tonight in Spreaker. We did a live ghost box session throughout the show last night. We did about 14 of them. And one of the names that kept popping up last night was Carl. And if you remember, Keith, I have nicknamed the guy who was at my window on April 20th of 2015 during this radio program. I nicknamed him Carl.
Yeah.
And last night...
Yeah, because...
Go ahead.
Well, let's face it, you name somebody Carl, Carl doesn't hurt people.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But anyways, last night, our listeners, and more than one or two, I'm going to say a good dozen or so who were taking notes during the live Ghost Box session last night, kept on hearing the name Carl. And they kept on hearing the name Dave. And the one thing that has kind of come up on this show this week is there might be an opportunity for Carl to show up tonight. I hope he does. He's been standing me up for damn near 2 years.
Well, at least he's consistent.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know?
No, this is true. This is absolutely true.
But if you'll remember rightly, Dave, especially for the first 8 months to a year, the last thing you wanted was Carl showing up on your doorstep.
Well, now I'm just pissed off because he just, he keeps standing me up. I'm looking good tonight. I dressed up, I showered, I had a shave this morning, I trimmed the beard. I know there's a few fellows listening in who won't want to hear that, but, I'm looking dapper today. I really am. I'm ready for tonight. I'm ready for Carl to show up. Whether he does or not, I don't know. Now, I want to ask you about that.
I like what Joe put in a little while ago in SOR there, asked if you had a camera set up at the door.
Well,
which, in all fairness, we never thought about.
You know what? I actually have a couple of paranormal investigators friends, Glenn Ferguson and Troy Ryan, staying here this weekend because we're going on a ghost hunt tomorrow night. And they just arrived here about an hour and a half ago. And I'm actually, when they come on down, they're upstairs eating right now, but when they come down into the studio, I'm actually going to ask them to get some gear out if they want, and we'll check out and see if we got something. But, the whole point is, and Keith, a lot of people don't know, after that show happened on April 20th of 2015, you were one of the first people I called. Actually, you were the first person I called after that. And what do you recall about that night?
Well, you were, the long and the short of it was you were very, very excited. Certainly not afraid, but very confused as to first of all, whether it was there or whether you were imagining it, and you were certain you weren't. And you asked me a question that I just kind of took for granted, and I think that probably threw you for a loop. But you asked me what they were doing there, and my immediate comment was, "Well, you don't think humans are the only ones listening in, do you?" And there was this long dead point on the phone, and then you went, "Well, I never thought of that." It was the weirdest dead silence I've ever heard out of you.
Yeah, usually you can't shut me up. Let's be honest. That's just the way it is. That's the way I like to do things. But let me ask you this then. And I know we talked about this a month ago for a little bit. But why hasn't he come back? Was that just a one and done thing, Keith? Because, now that I look back at the situation, I hate to say it, but there is a little bit of a connection there. And I can feel that connection. Yet I never seem to see him around.
Well, the difficult part there is, quite frankly, and we'll just call him Carl because, well, that was the name you tagged on him and it works. Quite frankly, Carl wasn't supposed to be at your window. Or more to the point, he wasn't supposed to be seen. And under the circumstances, I have no doubt that he got reprimanded for it. Okay, yes, he's definitely a scientist. And, of course, with all scientists, curiosity does get the better of them most of the time. But it's a question of he undoubtedly wasn't supposed to be spotted in the first place. They pride themselves, and that's really the wrong word for it, on being secretive, on keeping things hidden. Okay. That's where the reality is. Now, is it a one-time only? In all fairness, I can't say for certain it is or it isn't. I can tell you this. There is no doubt that you're still being listened to, and not just by the Greys. But the reason for it is simply because you have a tendency, especially where the off-worlders are concerned, of doing your best to keep an open mind, to take a look at all sides of it without just categorically going, oh, they're an evil thing. And there's a lot of shows out there where it doesn't where the show doesn't have that kind of, if you will, air to it.
Right. I got a question for myself, because rarely the questions are for me in here for you, but I'm going to take this one. John says, have you hung out with Samantha very much since that incident? Just wondering. John, Samantha and I used to live in the same town. We lived literally about 5 minutes away from each other, and her family and my family became very good friends. And then Samantha moved north into a town in British Columbia called Prince George, and then about a number of months later, my wife and I moved north to a small town called 100 Mile House, British Columbia. And so she lives about 3.5 hours north of me. We stay in touch, we chat. In fact, when Samantha's coming down to, say, go visit family on Vancouver Island, her and her husband and her kids will stop in and say hello. So yes, we do continue contact. And this summer, we're actually going to try and get together to go camping one weekend in the far-off wilderness here somewhere, just to see what we can call in. So we will be hopefully getting together again to do some UFOs this summer. And John, and for anybody listening, Samantha Mowat will be speaking at the first annual Spaced Out Radio Paracon up here in 100 Mile House, BC. And she will actually be conducting on the Friday night of the event and a UFO watch. So there's a lot that's going to be going on. And Keith, we got to get you up here for that as well, by the way. I've been meaning to talk to you about that.
I was going to say, okay, I don't have a problem with it, but I'm going to need a couple of things, like not the least of which is time, as in when. This is what I get for being a recluse.
Well, you know, September 29th to April. September 29th to October 1st would be the dates for that.
Okay. Well, we will certainly, you know, the reality is, will it come up? Absolutely. Let me just take a quick peek here. Nice thing about sitting in front of computers, even for me, is I can actually find out certain things, like what day of the week I'm standing on. You know. But no, the reality of it from all of that, you know, is that you're looking at a real, holy mackerel, that's a Saturday, that's a Friday and a Saturday. Well, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Yeah, tentative, we'll work it out. Let's face it, don't want to work it out on the radio per se, but will I tell you I'll make it up there one way or the other? We just got to work out the detail. The answer is, yeah, be happy to.
All right. I like that idea. We'll work about that off the air a little bit. You know what? Yeah. It's time to get to some questions here, because our fans love it when they have the interaction with you, and Twitter is lit up quite quickly here. And Deb is asking right off the bat at hashtag Spaced Out Radio, Keith, do you ever have repeat ghosts?
Oh, heavens, yes. That's, I mean, quite honestly, I've got a number of them that actually they interact with me to the point of causing disruption on occasion in day-to-day life. As in, they will move stuff of mine and put it places there's no way it can get to. And this isn't just me misplacing stuff. This is things like, for instance, they picked up this one chap that I've known for, quite frankly, centuries. He stole, I used to wear a fanny pack, and he stole the thing off of my door, off the door handle, and stuck it in a box that hadn't been opened in 6 months. Now, it was a friend of mine that was over that actually helped me find this thing, because he was here when we brought it in. We come through the door, hung it on the door handle because we were going out again, and it went missing. And when we finally found it, and Lord knows why he suggested it, but we took the box out from underneath the bed. The box was still sealed in packing tape, and the fanny pack was inside the box. You know, so I don't call them repeat ghosts. I call them residents, because they're here so frequently, you just kind of get used to it. The hard part for most people is trying to realize what sounds weird, what sounds like science fiction. To me, this is day-to-day life.
Next question from Deb at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. She is asking, Keith, have you ever asked for healing from your angels?
Absolutely. Hence why I'm still breathing. Actually, it's kind of comical because I wasn't the only one that asked for healing for me. But I ended up having my arm actually repaired completely. It was so badly out of shape. I used to have a 30-degree offset with my elbow. And about 2 years ago now, it quite literally got cut off and put back together. And that's the only way I can explain it, is because that's what it felt like. Right. But since that point, and this is going to sound really, really kind of loopy for most people, but until that point, I could never scratch my right shoulder with my right hand. I just couldn't reach it. Right. That simple maneuver was impossible and had been my entire life. And then one day this went and happened, and well, frankly, I can now do what most people can do. And I mean, you take it for granted. If you've got an itchy shoulder, scratch the thing. Only I could never reach it.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. Well, let's get to tonight's topic then, before I get to any more questions. We hear so much malevolent stories about extraterrestrials that I believe it scared a lot of people. Truthfully, it scared a lot of people. Whether it's from their own experiences, whether it's from movies, whether it's from hearing other people's stories or reading books like Whitley Strieber's Communion, there's a lot of people out there who think that everything to do with extraterrestrials is malevolent. And other people are just scared because we don't know. For the most part, we don't know, because we don't know what the governments are hiding. We have an inkling, but we have no clue. So my question to you is, Keith, we also hear reports of people who get involved with benevolent beings who say have had a sickness or an injury or even something as simple as the flu. And the next thing you know, after their contact, they are healed. How does this happen?
Well, there's a few things that have to be taken into consideration. Things like the flu, more often than not, quite frankly, it's got nothing to do with off-worlders. It has to do, and this is going to sound odd, but it literally has to do with what people would call a placebo effect. People believe that the off-worlders are going to help, and therefore think as simplistic as the flu, which is easy to dislodge from your body. Your body kicks in and it naturally heals. This doesn't require a remarkable intervention. Now, when you get into and don't get me wrong, some people may well have been healed by the off-worlders where it comes to something as simple as the flu. But the flu doesn't last as long as you might think. So we're not discounting anybody because, quite frankly, I don't have that much information, not on specifics. But where it comes to things like cancer, to brain tumors, to circulatory collapses, it is quite well known amongst some of the races that they will step in, and for reasons of their own, I don't profess to know what all the ins and outs are, but for reasons of their own, will step in and put somebody back together. And often, like if we look at the Pleiadians, quite often it's no more reason than they are healers, and somebody who is nice, who's genuinely trying to help people and is running into some serious snags, they find out about it and just kind of go, here you go. Kind of like with somebody on the street going, I'm really down on my luck. And some philanthropist comes and gives him a job. It just, out of the blue, it's a little hard to find a definitive reason for it, but it does happen. Okay. Why do
they pick and choose? Why do they pick and choose, though?
Well, let me ask you this. Number one, when you're dealing with the number of different races I'm looking at, we gotta understand that'll vary race to race. But the other thing you gotta look at is the why. Let me ask you this. If you're walking down the street and you see somebody on the street that's homeless, why do you pick one person to help and you don't pick the next? Okay, the variables to that question are rather extreme. Now, the more obvious ones are when you've got somebody that has been going out of their way to help people or going out of their way to advance higher understanding or higher behavior. That would be an obvious one that if they've done the work, if they've had the previous contact, even if they're not aware of the previous contact, even if the human isn't aware of the previous contact, that would be a reason for somebody to step in and go, I'm going to give this person a hand.
I understand. Yeah. I understand the whole human aspect in the example. You really broke it down simply for us. But a lot of people will say, damn it, Jim, you have the ability up there, or damn it, Carl, whatever you want to call them, you have the ability to travel billions of miles to get here. You have the ability to sneak into our houses. You have the ability to do whatever you want with us without asking permission. How about giving us some of these secrets?
Well,
because if they're taking...
The answer to that...
Go ahead.
There is a very simple answer to that one. Most of it, like many of the bigger secrets, they've already revealed. The cure for cancer has been in existence for decades, but humans won't release it. The issue around the common cold and that sort of thing, well, simply put, mankind keeps poisoning the pond. So trying to heal heal that aspect, yeah, they could clean it up, but mankind is still deliberately going out of their way and destroying their own planet and trying to compensate for it, especially with everything else going on. One of the biggest ones is trying to make sure that mankind doesn't kill itself altogether. Never mind the other off-worlders that are causing problems. Right. Most of the illnesses that mankind suffers from, quite frankly, mankind can cure, or more to the point, quit causing.
And I understand, and I understand that, and we've discussed many times on this show that a healthy population is not a profitable population, and we get that. We know that, and we know that we are screwing things up on this planet left, right, and center. Look at Syria in the last few days, and I don't really want to get into that entire topic because all of a sudden the chat rooms will go haywire with political talk. But still, the idea is that they are helping some people and not the others. I could see where the population or those who are scared or just upset by all of this are taking this one a little personally.
Oh, and I absolutely agree. I can absolutely agree with that. The sad reality is that, the good news I look at is the people that are being healed, that are getting this extreme intervention are not just the wealthy or not just the elite. They're the run-of-the-mill cowboy. They're the run-of-the-mill redneck. They're the run-of-the-mill hillbilly that is more in tune with the world than they are with society on the whole that are getting the help. They're the ones that it's not... This is one of those weird situations where having money or having perceived power or position in human society doesn't help. It doesn't make you any better.
I can understand that. I can understand that, Keith, in regards to that. However, does it matter on the type of contact you've had? For instance, if you're, say, a one-time contactee, can you be helped? Or is that going to be different from, say, someone such as yourself who gets taken 2-3 times a week?
Well, in all fairness, I've had, does it make a difference? The answer is probably not a lot. Obviously, familiarity will make a difference to who the off-worlders on the whole are going to exercise that healing aspect on, because much as they look different, they are still people. They still will help somebody that they're familiar with or somebody that they have heard of that is doing, positive things much sooner than they will help somebody that is trying to destroy the planet, that is going out of their way to do it. If you've got somebody that runs a corporation and is dumping toxic fluids into the river, or even for that matter, a janitor who isn't bothering to clean up what he's supposed to, and he's just poisoning the animals around, somebody like that, off-worlders aren't going to touch. Okay, on the whole. And the reason I say on the whole is because there are, shall we say, malevolent off-worlders that will help somebody because they figure that person is going to cause a problem. The difficult part is I wish I had a way of telling the listeners, here's how you can get in line to get healed. But it is such a simplistic method of straightening, for me, it's an easy way to look at the world and realize that mankind can heal 90% of its own damage without even going to a human doctor. Okay, that you have to realize that, mankind, the hard part on the whole is for an off-worlder to try to heal somebody. Most people will go back to doing exactly what they were doing before that caused the problem in the first place. Okay, and this is just and by the way, I shouldn't say we'll try English. When we're talking about most people, understand this applies to every race. The majority of them will go back to doing whatever they were doing before. You tell a smoker, stop smoking. They won't stop smoking. They come up with cancer, and then the doctor says, look, you're hooped. And I only use smoking because everybody knows about it, pretty much. But the smoker goes, why won't the off-worlders heal me? Why won't they cure my cancer? Well, primarily because you were stupid enough to do it to yourself in the first place when you knew better. Now, take somebody, on the other hand, that has never smoked a day in their life, is a nice person, and all of a sudden comes down with cancer. It's a reasonable bet if they're going to step in on somebody's cancer, it'll be that one, not the smoker. Because that one got it not by what they were doing in neglect, but because of the situation they were in. Does that make sense?
It does. One of the stories that I recall hearing was a gentleman who blew out his knee. And literally 2 days after he went to the doctor to be diagnosed that he needed reconstructive surgery on his knee, he went back to the doctor. He woke up, and his knee brace was off. He goes back to the doctor, walking fine without a cane, and the doctor basically said, what happened? How did this happen? This is an absolute miracle. In the meantime, he had seen 4 little puncture holes around his knee.
Right.
and an anterior cruciate ligament in your knee is not the easiest surgery in the world.
No, it really isn't. And I mean, kudos to the doctors that actually perform it, especially the ones that perform it without telling the guy in the first place. But things like that do happen. Absolutely. Okay. There is no, that I've been able to determine, there is no quantitative way of saying this is how they pick. Okay. I mean, it's almost, you'd almost chalk it up to a lottery. Okay. But the reality behind it is it's very seldom that you hear about somebody going the other direction where where an abductee goes away perfectly healthy and aside from mental strain comes back with all sorts of problems with bodies. They don't tend to, on the whole, break them. Now, unfortunately, it does happen on occasion. That's actually how I got my arm broken in the first place, was by a not-so-pleasant individual. So when you take a look at that, fortunately, it's not a reverse situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely indeed. We got about 10 minutes left with you before we go to our first break. Let's get to a question here from Canadian Joe at #SpacedOutRadio on Twitter. If the aliens are here to help us, why are they not curing diseases like cancer or other things that are bugging people with their health?
Actually, that really is a good question. And there's actually a very straightforward answer. You see, decades ago, the off-worlders turned the cure of cancer over to the government, to the governments. And, well, in all fairness, they turned over a number of things, but the governments broke the contract, so they went to the professionals, to the corporations, to the medical, and they turned the cure of cancer over to the medical society. The problem is that the medical society decided there was way too much money in researching it because they had already started the research program. They were already looking into it when they were handed this. And they looked at the benefit to mankind and the cost it was going to do to their pocketbook, and frankly refused to release it. Okay, so they were trying to release these cures or put the doctors on the right track for some of them. Many of the cures mankind has come up with, okay, they've come up with on their own. All advance is not by any reasonable stretch done by off-worlders, but where we talk about cancer itself, when we talk about Alzheimer's itself, mankind has the answers. It's locked in the medical vaults. And the medical societies of the different countries around the world won't release it because it, well, frankly, makes them more money on research. The other question that goes hand in hand, obviously, is, well, why don't they just release it broadband to the entire world? And the reason for that is because they're not supposed to it's actually forbidden to modify society and get them that far ahead of themselves, because frankly, if mankind were to all of a sudden have access to all of the technologies that the off-worlders have with mankind's violent temper, you think there's a bad war going on up there right now or one down here on the planet. Mankind would wipe itself out overnight.
Mm-hmm. Well, Keith, you look at the idea of marijuana, a perfectly natural cure that has been tested, that has been proven by many scientists on how it helps people with Parkinson's, with epilepsy, with cancer, with glaucoma, and it's right in front of our everyday eyes. Everybody knows it works, yet it is still vilified.
Absolutely, it is. Guess why?
Well,
Any idea why it is vilified?
because somebody in Parliament didn't have a good enough high growing up, that's for sure.
Basically, it boils down to, you take a look at the hemp plant itself, a more versatile plant than anything on the planet where it comes to clothing and what have you. But the cotton owners pushed for legislation to stop it from being made, from being worked with. Okay, this is where the problem is. So cleaning up a problem, for the off-worlders to come in and straighten out this mess, they could do it. But I will guarantee, and there ain't much I guarantee, that most of mankind would not like their method. They would not like the solutions. You know, because understand, humans are an extremely compassionate, quite often to their own detriment, species. They're very aggressive, very warlike, very, temperamental individuals, but they're also extremely passionate and very compassionate towards people, towards other races in their own right. Okay, the off-worlders aren't quite that nice about it. And curing such things as starvation will be cured overnight. But I'll guarantee, and I can lay it out, but it is not a pretty sight how, because I've had the discussion with them on how to cure starvation on this planet. Okay, there is no shortage of food on this planet. There is some areas where it's harder to grow, but there is no problem with the amount of food that can be produced here. And their cure for starvation and related illnesses that go with starvation is absolutely effective, but mankind is going to be about as unhappy as you can get.
Very understandable.
That's the reality behind that side of it. Is people don't like, on the whole, everybody wants the problem gone. But even when other humans come up with a solution,
yes,
people don't want to take it. They've been taught that change is difficult, that change is bad, that it's painful. And, quite frankly, there's a real easy way for anybody that's listening, and all of your friends, if you could turn around and tell them about it, there's an easy way to prove to yourself beyond a shadow of a doubt that change is not only easy, but totally painless.
Mm-hmm. And
here's a simple test to do for yourself, whoever, for all of the listeners out there. And Dave, try this one yourself. This is one of those things that I say, do try at home. Take any light object that is within your reach right now. I don't care if it's a pen, if it's a glass, if it's an ashtray, even if it's a cigarette. But if it's a cigarette, make sure it's put out first. Okay. Set it on the counter, right in front of you. Set it on the table. If you're sitting down on the floor, set it on the floor, right beside you. Look at where it is. Notice what you're feeling like. Then take your hand, pick that pen up and move it someplace else. Now, you can set it somewhere else. You can toss it across the room. I don't care. Move it somewhere. Note where it lands. Note how you feel. And why don't you give it a try, Dave, and tell me, did it hurt?
It didn't hurt, but I can tell you right now, I'm anxious where it is right now. No, I'm dead serious. I am anxious, and I have a little St. Michael's pendant that came to me from Deborah Io, our former guest here. She sent me some very blessed St. Michael's pendants, and I keep them in my studio to keep all the bad stuff away. And I moved it. Normally I have them up by my one computer, by my speaker, and I did exactly what you said. I followed it, and I moved it over to my left where all my cords are sitting, and all of a sudden my anxiety hit. Like, that's not supposed to be there. Why is that there? I don't want that there. Why do I have to have it there right now? What are you doing there? You know what I'm saying? Like, it felt uncomfortable.
Okay. And, and this is one of the big, now, it made you uncomfortable because it changed, but did it physically do any damage? Like, did it physically hurt?
No.
Okay. Now, people, some people are hypersensitive to change, and it becomes a major problem for them any way you want to look at it. But would you agree, Dave, that the greater majority of the human race is not OCD?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
And Keith, right there, I got to cut off this topic so you can go OCD off the air, because we are going to get ready for our first break of the night. Our Keith Andrews is with us the first Friday of every single month here with the ET Connection. Keith is a longtime experiencer, abductee, contactee, and he shares his stories and his knowledge with you. So remember, if you are in one of the chat rooms or on Twitter following along live, make sure you put all of your questions and comments in capital letters, rather. I would appreciate that. It makes us easier to get to them. We're also going to be moving on to more ET talk with our Keith Andrews in the second hour as well. We'll be right back on Spaced Out Radio.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
The third Monday of every month, Spaced Out Radio is going to bring you a different look at everything paranormal. Welcome to The Reporters. Jim Mallard, Vanessa Hogel, Denise Garcia, and Christina George join me, Dave Scott, for a look at the weird and strange from the other side of the microphone. We'll break down ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, and the people investigating them. The paranormal media has never been heard like this. Come listen to The Reporters.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spaceoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spaceoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passports. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up. Enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back for the second hour of Space Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Tomorrow night on Sunday, Elizabeth Anglin and James Tyson are in for Spaced Out Weekend. 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com as we roll this show 7 nights a week. This weekend, I will be packing my bag, heading out to the wilderness to find my Zen and my Chi, but we got programming for you, so make sure you check out the weekend if you are someone who doesn't like going out on the weekend. And there's a few of us like that. Hey, we want to welcome in our terrestrial stations, WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia. We are also live in New Orleans on 107.7 FM, the United Public Radio Network, and 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us. We're also live in Las Vegas on Renegade Talk Radio, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Thank you, Bill, for making my life a living hell sometimes. Mirme Kofagide. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right, but it does score well in Scrabble. Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Or was that Katie, his wife, who did that? Who knows? I'm shaking a fist at both of you. If you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. You can also use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to connect with me live during the show, like Deb, like Joe, like John, like Dennis, like Chris. Keep it on up, people. I love when that happens. We also have a Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio Show on Facebook. You can follow me on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. We're also on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. You can also hit us up on Patreon, patreon.com, where you can become a patron of SOR for as low as $1. Our Keith Andrews is back with the ET Connection. It happens the first Friday of every month. Keith, welcome back.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And thank you very much for everybody coming in. Fabulous questions coming through.
Absolutely. And let's get to the questions right off the bat here, okay, because we got some great ones, and it's a real good mixture of questions. Deb is asking at hashtag SpaceOutRadio, Keith, I want to know about strange happenings since the blood moon. Anything going on?
Well, this is where, and this sounds really odd, even being an astrologer, I'm still trying to figure out what people are referring to as a blood moon. So until I know that, I'm going to have a heck of a time answering the question. So if somebody can come up with an answer for me for that, my understanding of a blue moon is it's the second full moon in a given calendar month. I don't honestly know what a blood moon is.
We'll try and get that. I'm sure Deb will figure that out for us. Joe is asking at hashtag SpaceOutRadio, if extraterrestrials are so benevolent, shouldn't they alleviate everyone's suffering?
Well, number one, I never said they were all benevolent. As a matter of fact, the greater majority are rather neutral in the whole process. Number two, and this, oddly enough, this actually goes hand in hand with another question that somebody was asking. Gail Hodgson was asking what their methods of solving the problems that mankind is facing are. And the reason that they don't alleviate everybody's problem is because the way to solve it is extremely antisocial, is the best way. For instance, we'll take the starvation that's going on in Ethiopia, okay, or any of the so-called third world countries. Okay, now mankind is pumping theoretically over all kinds of food, medical supplies, and certainly an awful pile of volunteer manpower to try and keep these people alive on a plot of land that does not have the fertile capability of supporting the amount of people there. Now, mankind wants to keep them alive, which is great. The off-worlders would come in and wipe out 90% of the people in that area without damaging the property, clean the bodies out of the way, and then teach the survivors how to farm the land that they've got there. The survivors now will be able to farm the land in the area without starving to death. Now, I'm thinking humans on the whole are not going to take kindly to 9 out of every 10 people being killed. But that is how they would do it.
All right, I got a definition, thanks to Thomas in the Space Out Radio chat room on our website, for the blood moon. It gets its name from hunters who tracked and killed their prey by autumn moonlight, stockpiling food for the winter ahead. You can picture them, silent figures padding through the forest, the moon overhead, pale as a corpse, its cold light betraying the creatures of the woods. Kind of romantic.
In a really odd way, yeah.
Exactly. Let's get to Dennis's question at hashtag SpaceOutRadio. Do the aliens have anything to do with the Mandela effect?
No. Oddly enough, that actually is mankind's doing, but it's not mankind's doing as in mankind is deliberately going out and creating it. The Mandela effect is a side effect of the amplification of the neural network. Okay, now for a little bit more clarification on that, basically everything on the planet is linked. And whenever tension rises, or for that matter, in the case of the Mandela effect, whenever positive energy is amplified, it has an amplification effect on the entire area. But it's not saying, when I say mankind is doing it, do understand this is not a deliberate effort. It's being alive and being focused on, well, frankly, a very scattered array.
Let's get to some questions in Spreaker now. And earlier in the show, you had mentioned about a war up in the stars. Milo wants to know what's going on.
Well, there's actually three. There's three full-blown wars going on, and this is why I tell people, when we're talking about off-worlders, understand, yes, they've got bigger toys, they've got better weapons, but they aren't that much further ahead, spiritually speaking, than what mankind is. Now, you have one civil war going on between one specific race. Obviously, a civil war, it's amongst its own society. Because that race, and they're Techlex, what I grew up knowing as Techlex, they are your 4.5 to 5.5 foot reptilians. When they first headed for Earth, they were coming here with the intention of essentially strip mining it. When they found the human populace on it with a sentient race, most of them, and especially their leadership, went, hey, bonus, we got a food supply that we weren't expecting, and just to make matters better, it was tasty. Well, that triggered a civil war because some of the people, a good chunk of them in all fairness, said, no, we can't be killing off a sentient race, we got to rethink this. Net result, you have a civil war stopping that approach. The second war is between the Sirzazians, which are in a 7.5 to 8.5 foot armored reptilian that has been at war for, well, quite frankly, millennia with the Techlex in the first place. Okay, Sirzazians are actually allies of man. Why don't you see them on the on the surface of the Earth? Well, it's because, well, people are skittish about snakes. Never mind about a 7 foot reptile that carries a laser rifle. And the third one is, quite frankly, the Galactic Consortium. Now, they are a peacekeeping force, and all they are here for is to ensure that Earth remains at the control or under the control of humans, which are the dominant surface and sentient race. Okay, so the consortium is here to literally help bring mankind up to speed, because mankind has already left Earth. This isn't a question of they're trying to. They've already done it. You just haven't been told. You'll get told that in about 30 years. But they are they are responsible for making certain that other races and other complications don't adversely affect mankind's evolution. Because mankind is a child race. Very temperamental, very complicated, but most of the off-worlders are frankly afraid of them because mankind has some rather intriguing abilities. Not the least of which is the ability to jump from a totally logical problem to a completely retarded maneuver and still win.
Follow-up question from Chris here. And Christoph is asking, how far have we traveled?
We have. And like I said, sad to say, you'll get proof of this in about 30 years. So the younger ones, you get to find out. But we are fully functional on the moon. There is a there is a fully functional setup on Mars. There is a station on Io. And they've just put one in place on Titan. For those that don't know, Io is a moon of Jupiter, and Titan is one of the moons of Saturn.
Nice times.
You know, when
nice view.
Pardon?
Very nice view.
Oh, it is. You should see the rise. You should see an Earthrise from the other side of the moon. And by the way, when they call that the dark side, somebody forgot that the sun is over there. It's anything but dark.
True that. Let's move on because we got a plethora of questions going on here. This one comes from Dennis in our Spreaker chat room. The hybrids, if they are hybrids, are they all going nuts? So many people of the same age at the same time with the same social psych problems going crazy for no apparent reason. What is your thoughts?
Well, number one, no, they're not all going nuts. Number two, if you take a look at, I mean, there's no doubt some of them come unhinged. I mean, it happens to everybody. You know, it happens to people from every race. The biggest problem with so many people of the same age bracket, the same social circles, all having problems all at the same time, you're going to love me for this one. Check the human medical process. The amount of toxins that you guys are imbibing and are taking that is disguised as medication is absolutely bizarre. You want proof? Take a look at any one of the pharmaceutical companies, and I've got nothing against them. They're being honest. They will tell you, this medication will do this one thing for you to make you feel better. And here is 15 dozen things that it'll do to kill you. And yet you guys are still going out and buying it. The same age bracket will go and do the same thing. They'll all buy into, on the whole, I mean, there is the, you know, there are the anomalies there. But the majority of people will go out and buy the same type of medication for the same problem. And the amount of toxin that is in it, the amount of poison that you're putting into your own bodies and you know you're doing it. You know, the pharmacy is not hiding what they're doing. Okay. And this idea that they are a health authority or that the government wants you to be healthy, if that were the case, they wouldn't be authorizing poisons to be put into your foodstuffs. But that's what's causing the mental collapse.
All right.
Plus, of course...
Go ahead.
Plus, of course, take a look at your technology. Okay. Sonic warfare has been known since, quite frankly, World War I. It was actually known before that, but this time around it's known since World War I.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to another question. This one comes from Dennis again. This brings up another point. Are there genetically altered people amongst us right now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You take a look at it. Let's try the transgender. That people are actually deliberately, that the doctors are, and don't get me wrong, I've got nothing against it, but they are being genetically altered, and it's by choice. You take a look at the medicine, or the people that they check in utero, oh, the person has this illness. Well, with a little bit of a tweak, we can modify that illness, or we can modify that genetic structure so the bone actually grows properly. So there's absolutely genetically altered people. And of course, needless to say, the whole hybridization program that the Greys invented, well, frankly, they perfected it. That is literally genetic alteration.
All right, let's move on to a couple of comments here. One of our listeners, and I just found this out, one of our listeners who is here every single day, Aussie Rob, we call him. It's his birthday today, so we wanted to wish him a happy birthday.
Oh, absolutely. Happy birthday there, Aussie.
Yeah, Aussie Rob, every day when he chimes into the chat room and says hello, I always ask him what the future looks like because he's in Tomorrowland compared to us here on the West Coast. So
he's in Australia, is he?
Exactly. So, Rob, have a happy birthday from all of us here at Spaced Out Radio. And you know what? Once again, another month passes with you, Keith, and we haven't been invited to Florida for KJ's R. Keith Andrews party.
Yeah, I know that. Mind you, she does want to meet, so we're making headway.
Absolutely. I believe her and her husband, Bob, are going to travel on up here for our Paracon. So that would be kind of cool if they did. But I'll tell you, I'm still a little upset that you and I are here the first Friday of every month. She hosts a party the first Friday of every month and plays our show, and we're never invited. How does that work? We're getting ripped off here, Keith. We're getting ripped off.
I'm pretty certain the cost of getting us down there could be a little extreme.
Yeah, but we're good people. We're good people.
Well, I'm not going to argue that about you. I mean, me, it's a question. Somebody else can sort it out.
Well, what you need to do is get one of your alien friends to come pick you up, stop up, fly an hour north. That'll take about 3 minutes, okay? And then we'll fly down to Florida, and we're there. It's that simple.
Well, yeah, and if they provided a taxi service, that'd be great. But every time they pick me up, they have a tendency of bringing me back. Yeah, I'm still working.
I hear you there. Let's get to Tripp's question in the Spreaker chat room. Was it off-planeters that caused the great floods to set back ancient civilizations, which are just starting to be found and accepted to set back human timelines?
Oddly enough, they didn't actually cause it. They warned of it. You see, some people were actually paying attention, Noah in particular, but in all fairness, he wasn't the only one. And they warned him. They tried warning the people that their behavior, and it really did boil down to their negative behavior, was causing the problem. It destabilized the area around them, and net result caused a breakdown of the planet, and net result the flood. Now, something that's got to be understood here is when we talk about the flood, we're not talking about it flooding the entire planet. Okay, it wasn't the whole planet that went underwater, but for them, for the people involved, it absolutely was. Everything they had seen got buried underwater in a matter of minutes. Mm-hmm. Well, in all fairness, it was 40 days and 40 nights, but, it's just a lot of minutes.
Mm-hmm. Let's get to another question here, and this is a follow-up from Tripp. He is asking then, why was Gobekli Tepe buried then?
Well, I have a bit of a problem. See, this is why I warned people when I first started doing this, and still do regularly. I don't get all the answers. And I am one of the worst read English majors and one of the worst researched alien abductees on the planet. I don't even know who the man is.
It's a city, my friend. You're a little off.
Okay, I rest my case.
Okay, let's move on. Even I knew that. I get the history lesson there. Yes, I beat you on one. Let's go over to the SOR Space Travelers Club with Bob. And Bob is saying, I've heard it said that the medical condition tinnitus is linked to extraterrestrial contact. Is there any truth to this?
Technically, the answer is yes, but it's not caused by it. What it boils down to is because the vibratory rate, when you go off-world and you end up dealing with some of the subharmonics, it creates a subcellular vibration that just annoys the daylights out of humans because they're not used to it and they don't know how to, their body doesn't naturally compensate for it. So when you're around these higher frequency, emissions, it causes that ringing. And of course, once you've got it, it's kind of like anything else. Once you notice it, it stands out. And on the whole, there are cases of tinnitus that are not caused by off-worlders. But is there a link to it? In many cases, the answer is yes. It's an amplification caused by subcellular resonance. Now, how to cure it, oddly enough, is focus. In other words, by literally focusing past it, you can wipe it out.
Right.
Because all it is another sound you're hearing.
That's right. Bethany has a question in our Space Out Radio chat room on our website, and I like this question. And Bethany is brand new to the chat room, so we want to say thank you. And she came specifically for you tonight, Keith. She is asking, has Donald Trump got his interview by the off-worlders, or is he ignoring them, in your opinion?
Oh, there is no question that he has been connected, contacted. They are, before you go anywhere with that, though, the off-worlders are not in favor of a terrestrial war. In all fairness, they're not in favor of an extraterrestrial one. But has he been warned? The answer is yes. Is he paying attention? Well, we are talking about Donald Trump here. The answer is not really. And the side effects of him not paying attention to the warnings he's already got could be rather devastating, depending on how people deal with it. But like all major governments, they all, one of the biggest things that nobody wants to talk about is the fact that the governments, not the black ops, not the hidden governments, but the actual primary governments of the world are aware of these people and are in contact with them, depending on which race. But the reality of it is the ones that are actually in contact are not there trying to promote intercity war, or intercountry war. Right. It's a question of trying to explain to them this is not the way to solve the problem.
By the way, Keith, one of our listeners, Ronald, will be in Kelowna on Saturday night, where you live.
Oh, okay.
So, Ron, make sure you wave at Keith when you're flying into Kelowna if you're flying. It's a nice place. Very nice place. Thomas has a question in the Space Out Radio chat room on our website. Are doppelgangers off-worlders?
Nope. Those are actually an ancient race. And they're very real. But they don't come from off-world, they come from inner world. And they are exactly what they seem to be. They take over somebody's life. They terminate whoever, and they take over that life. Okay, and that is how they procreate. That's how they live. Needless to say, they don't kill that many people because, well, once you kill one, you don't have to go replacing it until you get too old. Until the physical body that you've taken over, by looking at human evolution, gets too old. And then the doppelganger will move on. They'll, if you will, feign their own death and carry on, go find a new one. But they are from a very long time ago.
Let's get to another question here. Keith, this one comes from Gail. You said Earthlings would not like off-worlders' methods. What would those methods be?
Well, this was what I was referring to about the issue of solving the starvation problem in the third world countries. Okay, you wipe out 90% of the people, and you no longer have a problem where the property can't support them. Where it comes to the people that are deliberately throwing food out, and I don't mean the individual family that the kid goes, oh, I don't want to eat my broccoli. I'm referring to the grocery stores, to the restaurants that deliberately throw food into the garbage and say, no, you can't turn it over to the poor. The owners of those companies would be, quite frankly, terminated with extreme prejudice. And somebody else would be moved into position with the simple warning. Don't go wasting the food. Okay, that's just one of the issues. The other issue would be some of these processes that mankind does, like the disparity between the wealthy and the poor. Okay, they would cripple the so-called economics distributed evenly. Okay, and the reason is because peace creates better prosperity than war ever has. So if they're going to sort out a problem, if you've got bullies that are causing a problem in a school, one method that has worked incredibly well is when a bunch of the people being oppressed beat the living stuffing out of the bully. Off-worlders don't have the patience for it, so they just kill them. Okay, no more bully, no more problem. And then you educate the people that this is not the way to do it. This is why I say it's not a method that humans are going to like. Because it's not a question of rounding up the problem ones. It's a case of wiping out wholesale in areas where it is better for the planet. Because, certainly give them the option. You can move or we wipe you out. Take your pick, depending on the off-worlder. But many people don't want to move their land and don't want to leave the land.
Let's move on to the next question. Vivian is asking, Keith, have extraterrestrials ever given any important information about the future?
Yep. Quite a fair chunk of it. I mean, we can go back to the warning about the flood. There was one that was kind of an important issue for the people, only they didn't listen. Sodom and Gomorrah was done exactly the same way. The humans have been told consistently, nuclear power is a natural stepping stone. It is one of those things you got to figure out how it works in order to get to fusion, which is a better energy system. But stay away from the war. Stay away from the weapons. Yes, they make a big bang, but they're also extremely deadly, and not just to the people, but to the planet that you're trying to live on. They have been warned that there is going to be a massive earthquake, one coming off the east coast or off the west coast, rather, of North America, and one coming straight out of the Canary Islands. They have been warned. Now, the one coming out of the west coast, there's not much they can do with. Okay. But the one coming out of the Canary Islands, they absolutely can. They're just not bothering. And I don't mean the off-worlders aren't bothering. The humans that have the capacity to solve the problem are flat out refusing to do it. Okay, and the devastation that is going to come when that happens, and no, I don't have a time frame, but I can tell you when it happens, it's going to result in quite literally billions dead that mankind has been warned about. Okay, the people in power have been told these are problems that are coming up. Only the people in power have this brilliant idea that because they have money or because they've got their own agenda, that's not an important aspect. And so they're not dealing with it. Okay. They have been warned that doing this cute little thing where it comes to fracturing, I think it's called fracking, the Earth to release certain things, is kind of retarded because it's going to cause tectonic instability that mankind has not got a prayer of dealing with. Okay. So, I mean, they are getting warnings of what they're doing being a bad move. Mankind has one critical flaw, okay, that comes to mind right off the bat, and that is flat-out arrogance. We can do it, therefore, we're going to. They don't think down the road. The native North Americans used to have it that when they were planning on doing anything, they would look seven generations down the road to see what that was going to do before they made a move. Today's world, including the North American Indians, don't look 5 minutes down the road for what they're doing, on the whole. And yes, the off-worlders have pointed this out to people on a regular basis, to people in power. And even when the people in power have said, okay, we'll do what you're asking, they've turned around and gone against it. You know, this is one of the reasons why the world's in the state it's in. Because mankind has this brilliant idea that it can do it, therefore it's okay, and they have the right. But then they wonder, I mean, you take a look, an obvious example to me, down the southwestern states, down in the California area, you've got earthquakes happening regularly. Yet humans have this brilliant idea. Let's build our houses on stilts on the edge of a mountain and then wonder why they fall down. You know, now don't get me wrong, the view's great. But it's not exactly thought out as well as it probably should be.
Let's move on to another question here, and this one comes from birthday boy Ozzy Robert. He's saying, Keith, with the frequencies that the aliens you have encountered, do you think that some of them could be tracked by those frequencies, especially crystal aliens?
Absolutely. But we can scrap the issue of it being especially crystal aliens. But yes, absolutely they could be. Because the wavelengths do come in at a sonic and or an optic line, and therefore can be tracked. Okay, so the question that obviously goes with that, would it be possible to find them? Well, absolutely. You know, there's no question there at all. Just understand, they've got a much better relay system, and therefore their oscillating shield systems make it really hard to get through their defenses. Not impossible, just hard.
All right, let's move to a question, a follow-up from Joyce. She is saying, could frequency be the key to how Bigfoot becomes invisible to humans, and also how aliens communicate without verbalization? Humans have very limited senses in the whole big scheme of things.
Well, she's absolutely right there. Number one, humans actually did discover about 20 years ago now, yeah, maybe a little longer, maybe 25, they discovered, and they didn't know it at the time, but they were right, a quantum particle for thought. Okay, they presumed at that point that it was a particle that was thought, a physical particle. They were right. And what the aliens are capable of, because again, she's right about the issue of humans being very limited in their senses. Aliens have the ability to pick up on that particle, and thereby you have physical telepathy. Apparent nonverbal communication is actually a physical backbone to it. Okay. Now, when it comes to Bigfoot vanishing, technically, yes. Quite frankly, sonic can play a part. They just happen to be masters at camouflage. And if you know how to move in the woods, and let's face it, these guys are natural at it, then fishing becomes child's play. Okay, it's not a real hard stretch to get very far to realize where it comes to Bigfoot. Bigfoot doesn't leave the planet. They don't vanish out of existence. They just simply know how. I know people, like humans, that can vanish right in front of your eyes, and you lose track of them in a heartbeat. And that is in the middle of an open field. So if a human can do that in an open field, somebody that grew up in the woods can do it in a heartbeat in the woods. Make sense?
Absolutely. Let's move on to another question. Gail is asking, Keith, have you written all of this down so you can either write books or so this information will be saved for future generations?
Actually, in the process of doing that, for the longest time, and in all fairness, up until just last fall, frankly, I spent so much time trying to convince my own parents that I wasn't completely off my nut, that it was more an issue of survival than it was trying to figure out how to pass the information on. Because so many people, well, in all fairness, Dave, until Charles Stansberg kind of ambushed me and put me on the radio about 4 years ago, everybody I talked to about it had told me, quite frankly, I was off my mind. I was right out of my mind. So at this point, at that point, I really hadn't bothered. Now I am actually in the middle of documenting a lot of the cultural background of the different races that I'm aware of. I've got, I literally have a novel that I'm now looking for an artist for, and I'm having a heck of a time for that will explain some of the issue of the different races. In all fairness, the novel itself is a whole lot more complicated, and it doesn't go into one particular race. But I am in the process of writing exactly what she's referring to, a compendium that does actually explain, here's what the race is, here's what I know about it, here's its attitude, its culture, its upbringing, because this is something that generations down the road are certainly going to need. Face it, we've already got the off-worlders. People talk about disclosure. Well, it's already happened. People already, as far as I'm aware, I think the last statement I heard was that something like 50% of people believe that off-worlders are here. So what do we need, full disclosure for? It's already happened. But yes, I am actually writing it down. But finding an actual realistic artist is a royal pain in the neck.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm absolutely, I get that problem solved, and I can get a lot more done. Because I'm really good at the crippled stick man that fell down the stairs into the carburetor. But that's not a good picture.
Let's move on to the next question. Joyce is saying, I hear it in my mind's ear and believe it is the natural frequency that is slightly different to the broadcast standard frequency set in Europe 1939 and in the USA in 1953. How different are they?
Well, how different are the frequencies?
Yes.
Well, that, in all fairness, that is akin to the question of how different is an FM frequency from an AM. Okay, they're a totally different wavelength with a totally different texture, and therefore a oscillating vibratory rate. With some of the frequencies these people work with, well, let me put it this way. I'm working on a program on quite literally a process called the oscillator densification of the tri-transtemporal equilarity, which works off the sonic resonance of the shockwave in front of the electron that runs the electron drive. Now, the different races work on different frequencies where it comes to both thought lines, like the frequency of their brain, as well as the sonic impression of vocal cords or wind tunnels or whatever it is that their individual communication lines are used.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Try that again?
Dennis is asking, he says, always wanted to ask, what about the contamination factor with humans that aliens are having?
The contamination factor that humans, well, that is one of the, depends on your definition of contamination. If we're referring to illness, it's something that they're very aware of, and they go, the off-worlders go to extensive training as far as the handling of different races. Where it comes to the actual genetic crossover, well, frankly, they've got a much better medical system. And humans, on the whole, are very easy to repair. So if one does get ill with an off-world virus, frankly, they can cure it in a matter of minutes, on the whole. And if not, they don't bring them back right away. They do have such a thing. See, where they will terminate their own race if it gets ill, they don't necessarily terminate Terrans if a Terran gets ill, because it's a different race, it's a different social structure, and therefore they try and deal with them on that premise.
I'm not wanting to ask John's question, but I will, because I know this one is a laughing pot shot at me. He is asking, Keith, do you know if there are any gnomes living under Dave's house? Damn it, John.
Well,
John, I am shaking my fist at you.
I guess the logical answer would have to be yes, because of one little detail.
You jerk, you would say that.
He didn't ask how deep.
Ah, well, that's okay then.
You see, there's this funny little problem called Inner Earth, which is basically a whole civilization, and you can bet your bottom dollar, if I remember dimensions correctly, Earth is approximately 8,000 miles in diameter. So, yes, I have no doubt at all that there are gnomes under your house. Probably 1,000 miles or so.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that said, if you're asking, are there gnomes under Dave's, in Dave's crawl space, I really wouldn't hold my breath on it. They like a little more room than that.
Either way, I don't like that. Don't like it a bit. Thanks, John. Thanks for bringing that up, my friend. Good to have you with us tonight. Trip is asking... What? Who?
You do realize that's the same thing as asking me, does Dave have worms in his yard? Yeah.
Yeah, go away. Go away with that. Okay? Between my left socks and my underpants, I don't know what the hell is going on. They're all taking them. Damn gnomes. Trip is asking...
no, that's the giant monster.
Oh, okay. Trip is asking, has SETI found and know the direction to planets with life and is just not telling us?
Yep. Now, I can drag that out if you'd like. We can go, yes.
Okay, you got about 6 minutes on that one. Or 8 minutes.
Frankly, SETI's been in touch with off-worlders for decades. Okay. They have kept it as hush as they can get away with for exactly the same reason that the government does. Primarily because the government told them to. The reality of it is they've known about it. Okay. But humans are afraid of each other. Telling humans that there are worlders on the planet, or that there are races out there that are technologically far further advanced than mankind, quite frankly, makes humans edgy. I keep getting asked by people, and I don't mean just on this show, I mean face to face. Well, are the aliens coming here to conquer us? Well, let's just look at one ship. Only one. The consortium's main ship, which is in the quadrant. It has a main gun, and the barrel of which you could take the Titanic, fly it down the thing broadside, and still have room to maneuver. So does SETI know that these guys are out there? Absolutely. Let's face it, the moon is not that far away. They also know that every time Mars comes within at its closest point, number of sightings jumps by 3 times. And this is just a proven stat. Okay. So, absolutely they know. Are they going to come forth and say, absolutely, we've been in contact with them for this long? Not for quite a number of years yet. They're still going to stand on this idea of, when they do come out and say it, they're going to do something like, we finally made contact. Actually, I think somebody just came out with that about a month or 2 back. Said they got a repeat signal. Which technically isn't a lie. They did get a repeat signal, a return signal. Problem is that it started some 40 years ago. This is not new information. It's just they're finally getting around to telling people.
All right, we got time to squeeze in one more question here. This one comes from Aussie Rob again, the birthday boy. He says, Keith, with the number of abductees that have been taken and not returned, do you think that they have chosen to stay with that race that has taken them in preference to returning to Earth?
Some of them, the answer would be yes. There are 3 types of people that don't come back. Okay, on the whole. The lesser of them don't come back because they choose to stay put and carry on learning. There are a few that just simply, because of the shock of the abduction or because of complications that nobody could have really dealt with, they pass away and don't survive. Okay. Sadly, if they are in the process of using a matter relocator and they have a glitch, they may end up with a puddle on the other end and they just don't want to return it at that point. And of course, if you get picked up by the wrong race, well, frankly, you end up on the dinner table. There is also the other issue where some people get picked up and frankly sold. So, but are there a number of people that voluntarily don't come back? The answer is definitively yes. But most of the people that don't come back by the voluntary method are people that don't have connections left on the planet. It's not because the off-worlders, if you're a criminal trying to get away, they're not going to give you refuge, or sanctuary. I just robbed, whatever. And I don't want, I've been dealing with the mob and I don't want to have to deal with them anymore. They aren't going to offer you sanctuary because you've already proven that you're a problem. Okay, the best you could hope for is to end up on the dinner table. But in all likelihood, they'll send you home.
Do you think, though... Yeah, it does. But do you think, though, that maybe due to the aspects of travel on some humans, that they just can't come back for health reasons?
Absolutely. And that would be the medical issues that I said happens periodically. That would fall under that. Where because of the change, they're not physically able to come back. Okay, like I know of a few people that were paraplegic when they were taken. They had their legs, but they didn't work well here. You get them off world into a lighter gravity, and they can walk comfortably. People like that, if they don't have other family connections or other friendship connections, frankly, given the option between going back and living in whatever situation that the local government has deemed to stick them in, or becoming a physically active, productive member of a mixed society. And the consortium is not just one race. That's the thing that people got to realize. Frankly, it's an incredible array of different races. And given the option of being an invalid on the planet or a functioning member of a society, frankly, there are definitely people that go, I'm not going home. I don't want to. But it's not as big a number as what you might think. There are, much as people like to think, oh, I'm a pioneer, right? And there's a lot of people that talk about going out and living in the bush, and that's great. And more power to them. Myself, I'd get lost out there. But being a pioneer in, out in the Rockies or in the Appalachians is one thing. Being a pioneer on a starship or on a planet on some other, with a binary star, a binary sun, is a whole different ball game altogether.
Any more questions, we will have to take them at the top of the next hour, as it is almost break time here on Spaced Out Radio. 2 hours down already, Keith. Going fast.
Talk about moving in a hurry.
Absolutely, and the questions are great tonight, so make sure you keep those questions up. Keith Andrews is here the first Friday of every month. We call his show the ET Connection, as he talks everything extraterrestrial through the 3 full hours of the show. So Keith will be back us for the final hour as well. Get your questions ready. Make sure you type them in capital letters. Your questions are coming up next with our Keith Andrews. You're listening to Space Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back right after this.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines, your answers are a click away.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4COP. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories. From alien encounters to the latest conspiracies, you won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
A child grew up too fast, went running wild. Now we don't know who to pray to anymore.
Welcome back to the final hour of Space Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. I am out of here for the weekend, leaving the captain's chair and Uncle Jimbo's cabin to Elizabeth Anglin and James Tyson for Spaced Out Weekend, Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. So be sure to tune in as we go live 7 days a week. We want to welcome everyone in the United Public Radio Network, live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We're also live on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia. Thank you so much for being with us on a nightly basis. We appreciate being your nighttime entertainment. We're live in Las Vegas on Renegade Talk Radio, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Mirmi Kofaji. I said that wrong. Mirmi Kofagidae. Mirmi Kofagidae. There we go. Mirmi Kofagidae is your password of the night. Bill Cardwell sets it each and every night right here on the Spaced Out Radio Show and tries to tongue-tie me every night with that damn password. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate you taking the time. If you want to follow us on social media, you can do so at hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can tune us in on TuneIn. Download this show and others on iTunes. You can also find us on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including The Encounter Online, our brand new news section. So if you want to catch up on everything weird, strange, and paranormal, head to The Encounter Online. And you can go to patreon.com. That's Patreon, patreon.com. And for low as $1, you can become a patron of Spaced Out Radios. For the final time tonight, we reintroduce our Keith Andrews, the first Friday of every month. Keith comes in with his special, The E.T. Connection. Keith, welcome back.
And thank you very much for having me back. And, frankly, welcome back to all of our listeners, both the ones that have been through the show and any that happen who have joined in at this point.
Absolutely. So we pick up listeners all the time. Let's get to some questions here from our audience. So if you're in or wanting to ask a question to Keith, you got to join into one of the chat rooms. Please type your question in capital letters so I can get to it. This one comes from our website chat room at spacedoutradio.com from Thomas. What is your opinion of Arcturians and their role here on Earth, Keith?
Well, number one, on the whole, they're decent people. Like many humans, there's various different personalities that go with them. But they are liaisons. They are trying to help mankind basically get up to speed on the idea of what is possible out there without scaring the daylights out of them by looking completely off kilter. Okay, well, Arcturians can walk around in a city, in a human city. And aside from the fact that they may seem a little out of place because they may not know the customs, basically they'll look like a foreigner, but still look essentially human. So it gives them a lot better ability to interact with humans where humans are than in isolated or in controlled environments. Okay, but let's eliminate one little concept. No, they're not here to take over. They're not even here to pull. Go ahead.
Are they a benevolent race?
Yes. Okay. They're not, the Arcturians basically work for the consortium and are literally here to help bring mankind up to speed on what is, on the way things really work. Because, like I said earlier, mankind has already left Earth. They've already stumbled across a very big difference and big change in their social evolution. And the Arcturians are down here trying to help. But no, it's not a occupation either. So how about if we get away from that thought?
All right, moving on to more questions from our audience. Let's get to Tripp's question. How many of the elongated skulls found are from off-planeters?
In all fairness, probably the greater majority of them. There's two different styles of elongated skulls. The ones that have a rounded forehead are, quite frankly, simply those are your, what were coined, I think it was back in the 70s or maybe the 80s, as the cone heads. It's fitting, but that's the real skull, the majority of them. However, and I don't know which tribe it was or which tribes, but you will find some elongated skulls where the front of the forehead, where the forehead and the whole front of the skull is flattened. And those are are frankly Native Americans. We're talking way back, but there was a tribe, at least one tribe that I'm aware of, and I frankly forget the name of it, that used to actually board their newborns and fold the skull when they were first born. They'd strap a skull to the forehead and flatten out the front of the skull, making an elongated forehead, like an elongated head. So if it's a rounded forehead, the odds are very good it's an off-worlder. If it's not, if it's got the flat side to it, kind of like a starter, then you're looking at, in all likelihood, human.
Milo would like to know, what is the most benevolent species out there that you've come across?
Well, I like the Sirzazian. They're rather, it depends if we're talking about benevolent towards humans or just on the whole. The Pleiadians are healers, and they are about as neutral as they get. They'll heal anybody. And that is what they do. So that probably falls under the category of being the most benevolent. Although you might want to look at that and go, well, if they're helping the evil ones, then that's not really benevolent, but it is. They're just about as neutral on who they're helping as long as they're helping. But that would probably that's probably the most benevolent, because in all fairness, even the angels, which are another race altogether, are not what you would necessarily call benevolent. Because the Pleiadians, they will heal people, and they do it in as quick and as painless a fashion as possible. Angels are not necessarily going to do what you hope is good, but they will do what's best for you, for the area that they're, if you will, overseeing.
Let's get to another question.
Makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get to another question from Tripp here. He is asking, are there true crystal skulls, and do they hold secrets?
The answer is yes. There's 13. Okay. And do they hold secrets? Oh, yeah. Because when you get them set up in the appropriate fashion, frankly, they will reveal information about the evolution of the multiverse and about the actual method of what people call the Big Bang Theory. They explain a lot of that, but you need all of them to open the door, to put it together. Individually, you can gain phenomenal wisdom and phenomenal insight into a lot of different areas. They are, but there's only 13 real ones.
Do you think they have any type of healing quality?
Absolutely. They quite literally, when you get them all together, they actually will, and they basically will enlighten the individual with quite literally the quantum, the understanding of the biomagnetoelectric flux. on how all of that can trigger the regeneration of a body. Now, they're not the only tool out there, but they hold information. They're not basically they're an extremely detailed library. And they're self-evolving. This is one of and what I mean by that is you put them around anything and they will absorb the data of what is going on. And then when you get them all together, they will actually communicate with each other, if you will, kind of like putting a massive mainframe supercomputer together. Only one that, quite frankly, makes Earth look really pocket change. I mean, it already is, but this makes it look worse.
All right, let's get to another question here from our chat rooms. Dennis is asking, do the aliens know if Seth, as he said, puts in brackets, was a real entity alien event?
Well, again, I really do have to do some of this research. Somebody want to give me a synopsis on Seth, and I'll fill you in on the rest of it?
I have no idea. I've never heard of it, to be honest. Sounds like a bad host when I say that, but I'll get Dennis to break it down because he's usually pretty good with that. So, Dennis, if you could break that down for us, because I don't have time to pull it up, I would appreciate that. Let's get to another question here. This one from Bill Cardwell. Keith, you suggested that cancer has been cured, but they are holding back, so research money keeps coming in. Why just cancer? Why allow cures for all diseases that have been eradicated or can be cured through vaccines like chickenpox, smallpox, polio, diphtheria, tetanus, and others? Those diseases affected way more people over time. I would think the person holding the once-a-month cancer cure pill would be beyond rich and beyond belief. A global market willing to pay to stay alive is bigger than those willing to give research a possible cure.
Well, sad to say, I didn't mean to insinuate that only cancer, and I certainly wasn't just referring to suggesting they've got it. I was literally flat out saying they've got it. As for why, some of these other things, like, for instance, your chickenpox, your diphtheria, those types of illnesses, well, mankind decided and discovered them. Okay, they weren't handed to them. We have some brilliant scientists in the human race. But as for why they would choose to hang on to a few of the illnesses and not all of them, well, frankly, I'll use a term that I've heard from different government agencies before, plausible deniability. See, we did manage to break this illness, but we're still needing to figure out cancer because it's more complicated. So people go, oh, well, they're making headway, so let's give them some more research money to work on this one. As for, would that not make the people that hold the keys insanely rich? Absolutely. But for anybody that knows people that have got that funny little bug, what they call, what people look at, unfortunately, most people that have a lot of money have this brilliant idea it's not enough. So, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to make themselves feel better about what's going on with them, and they're using money to try and do it. Which, by the way, clearly indicates they missed the whole point of what money was for in the first place.
I like money. I'm not going to lie. I really like it. It makes me feel good. I like to bathe in it. I'm not going to lie. That's just me, though. Let's move on to another question here. And this one comes from Amber. And she is asking, Keith, how many of those abductees that are returned actually get returned to a different time zone?
Well, I can't even begin to give you a number, but there are enough of them to, if I were to put a percentage, frankly, if you hit 1% of the abductees being moved someplace else, you're probably hitting high. Basically, it boils down to a clerical error. Okay, somebody forgot where they got them from, and dropped them off someplace else. It's not like they drop them off, pick them up in Pennsylvania and drop them off in England because they're trying to be creepy. It's because they quite literally, on the whole, forget. Every once in a while, you'll get a joker that'll do it on purpose, but, it really doesn't happen percentage-wise very frequently. But I heard of a situation where it literally just happened, I think it was about 6 months ago, where somebody ended up in England with absolutely no identification. They were in their night garb, and they ended up at an airport in England. You can just picture the problem they had.
Absolutely. Let's move on to another question. This one comes from Trip. Will it take a certain light or laser to open when arranged? Trip, I'm sorry, I read that, Keith, and I have no idea what he means by that. So, guys, when you're detailing questions, please explain, because we do not have the opportunity to research them when we're doing questions on the fly like that. All right, I apologize, guys. Susan has a question. Susan is asking, is it possible to see a mantid in your mind's eye? Sometimes I sense one during meditation. And I want to answer this first, Keith, because the answer there for me is yes, because I have had that happen myself, not with mantid beings, but with others, as well as with mountain lions or cougars, because that is what I figured out my totem animal is. So I believe that is totally possible. What do you think, Keith?
Oh, it's absolutely possible. When you start dealing with totems and with that kind of connection, we go back to the neural net, where humans are connected to the entire set of it, to the entire planet. Well, in all fairness, it goes beyond that. But linking to one specific absolutely makes sense, because if we go back into past life understandings, if you have had repeated interactions on a positive level, or for that matter, if you were one of those animals in a past life, it stands to reason you would have a definitive affinity for them. Okay, so you're certainly looking at a connection that is very plausible. In all fairness, it doesn't happen as frequently as the number of people that claim to have the connection would indicate. But I'm not the one to tell you which person does have a connection or which one doesn't off the top of my head.
All right, I love this question from John. And John is asking, seriously, Keith, have you ever had sex with an alien?
Well, point blank, I'm not going to answer.
Damn it. I thought we were getting somewhere there. I thought we were getting some goods. No. Oh. You're keeping the romance, the berry white, the red wine, the flower petals, or whatever the hell aliens like. You're keeping that to yourself.
Yeah.
All right. I hope it was good for you. Okay, Dennis has broken down who Seth is. Seth is an internationally acclaimed spiritual teacher who spoke through the author Jane Roberts while she was in a trance and coined the phrase, "You create your own reality." Do you know who we're talking about now?
Yeah, I actually scanned through that, and thank you very much for the synopsis. Frankly, I heard about him a long time ago. I just, like I said, I'm very poorly read. Now, I believe the question was, is he in fact, or was he in fact, an actual alien? And I'd be inclined to say more likely hybrid. But because the reality behind that is you would have to have the cultural understanding of the human genome in order to be able to actually pass that information on. Now, the majority of what he talked about, you're talking about the operations of the higher senses, and quite frankly, matter manipulation, which is a very real thing. And yeah, quite frankly, from what I understand of the whole, of him personally, it makes total sense that he has got to be at least a hybrid, simply because of the fact that he cannot be an evolved human. Okay, there is one possibility that just dawned on me. Talk about being stupid on occasion. It is quite there's one or two possibilities. Now, I never met the man myself. One is he's a hybrid. The other is he's Lemurian. Now, Lemurians were human. Okay, and when we had the civilization up and running, there were over 10 billion Lemurians. So, and that kind of maneuvering, that kind of mental understanding of the idea of create your own reality is absolutely consistent with Lemurian philosophy. Because most of what we built was done by physical manifestation, manipulation of matter via mind over matter. And, with that in mind, frankly, my money would be on him being, quite frankly, a Lemurian.
Getting back to the crystal skulls for a moment, Trip has straightened out his question for us. He says, when crystal skulls are arranged, will it take a certain light or laser to open them?
Well, technically, and we'll have to use the term a little loosely, but technically the answer would be yes, but understand, opening the crystal skulls is not a case of physically opening them. Okay, it's not like you can reach inside them; they're solid. Okay, but it is a definitive texture and sonic frequency of light that will actually trigger the access to put them all together. To access the information properly. Understanding, of course, that all light has texture, sound, and density. So when the term laser works, but it's very limiting.
I love John's question here. I got to ask this at #SpaceOutRadio. Oh, this is a good one. If we needed a laugh, this one's it. John is asking, did the aliens think it was funny when humans got so drunk they thought bull riding might be fun?
Well, in all fairness, not really. Although they did, but only in as much as what some of the other races have done in similar cases, not necessarily with a ball. But when you're dealing with races, humans are mortals, have been known to test their mettle against all sorts of things for centuries. Well, quite frankly, for millennia. And they were just, one of the comical side of it was not so much was riding the bull, kind of an odd thing to call fun. But standing in front of it was the fun thing that they looked at and went, there was sort of a toss-up between those are really gutsy, really courageous people, or are they completely out of their minds? And it was sort of a toss-up as to which. But understand, they've done their own, the various races, all of them. When you have a child going from child to adult, or they become an adult, they're trying to make a mark for themselves. Every society has has what other people would call a stupid move. Like base jumping off base jumping in some planets. Well, the Swazians, for instance, for a kick, jump off the side of a cliff into a maelstrom, into a phenomenal windstorm, to prove that they have the nerve to do it. And they're not jumping into water, they're jumping onto ground. Much like people, much like humans jumping off a cliff and going for the water. Bull riding is, for some races, riding a bull is really a mild thing, because the bull won't eat you if it can get a hold of you. It may gore you, but it's certainly not going to try and eat you afterwards. So, did they find it comical? Yeah, much like you find a 2-year-old, the way a 2-year-old walks, kind of comical. Make sense?
Absolutely. Let's get to another question here. This one comes from Bob. He's saying, Keith, how much disclosure is taking place in Hollywood TV and movie productions? How many writers and producers are in the know and reflected in their work?
Well, George Lucas, what's his name? I forget what his first name is.
Steven Spielberg.
Steven Spielberg. And the guy that put together the X-Files, Carter, I think his last name was, are all definitively in the know. And I don't know the guy's name, but I know there is one in Europe that is also very much in the know. Okay. Some of the races that have been depicted are extremely on the money. Like, for instance, one of the recent movies came out, Jupiter Rising. You want to see a Tormenon? There's a Tormenon. They've done a absolutely spot-on job of it. You want to take a look at a nasty critter? Take a look at Predator. Very much a real animal. Well, real person. With the alien off of the movie Aliens, aside from the extending jaw, that was a Hollywood addition. They're very real. And yes, they do have this nasty habit of using other sentient animals, or for that matter, non-sentient, as birthing hosts. And yes, it does tend to terminate them. Kind of like a chicken will eat the albumin and the yolk in an egg. Well, the albumin in the egg. With that particular race, they will eat the human body altogether.
The one thing that I learned about that is, and I read this in a couple of different books in my research way before I started Spaced Out Radio, that one of the ways to disclosure was to start humanizing these creatures in different ways. And that's why we see so many malevolent alien beings on video games, in movies, in books, on book covers. Because that way, when humans are used to seeing them, when they finally do show up here, they will know what to do to them. What is your take on that theory?
Sadly, you're actually pretty reasonably accurate. The downside is they keep turning them into monsters and into absolute horrendous individuals. Okay. There were 2 shows that came out decades back. The quintessential Close Encounters of the Third Kind was absolutely brilliant in its explanation and its depiction of the Greys. Okay, painted them beautifully. The other one that came out that was perfect was Starman. That showed that there are benevolent aliens amongst us. This is not a question of, every alien out there is not a creep. Very much like every human out there isn't a creep. There are creeps in every race. But it is a desensification. That was a really lousy word, but I think you understood what I was trying to say.
No, absolutely. And, what would be the purpose then of trying to turn mankind against all races? because people have learned that greys are bad, reptilians are bad, predator is bad, alien from the aliens are bad, it is bad. Everything's bad.
Think of it this way. You're a human, and you're in a position of power on Earth. Now, you know off-worlders are coming, and you know that they are benevolent, and they have abilities, and they have, this nice demeanor to them. And you know that these off-worlders are going to point out that you really are a creep. Are you not, with your ability to manipulate the media and your ability to put forth this image, aren't you going to try and make certain that everybody thinks these guys are creeps before they get here? Okay, they're fighting to maintain their position in a failing system. And the current world is failing. It is metamorphosizing. I think that's a really bad word, but it might be right.
it works. It works. We'll give you a passing grade on that. Catherine wants to know, Keith, do you know of a creature that has a pupil like ours, but there are 3 of them stacked horizontally while slightly overlapping each other?
Yeah, they're called watchers. Totally harmless, but they literally watch. I don't know if she's aware of it, but they also have 3 arms. Okay. But yeah, they quite and it just boils down to they have the eyes are, well, I guess the best way to put it is it's a trifocal lens. Okay. The human brain sorts all of that out behind one eyeball. Theirs have a whole array of optic nerves that modify what they're saying, don't modify what they're seeing, but pick up different issues of what they're seeing. Different frequencies, different vibratory rates, different densities that go so far outside the human spectrum that it's a little hard to quantify. Okay.
Where do they come from?
Well, that's a little complicated. They're about 3 wormholes away. Basically, if you take a look, I think the easiest way to describe it is if you go to the tail end of the Little Dipper and basically follow the line of the handle, okay, you'll be heading in the right direction. But when we're talking about wormholes, we're not talking short distances. And no, in answer to that, no, I haven't been to their home planet.
One of our newer listeners, Keith, is a gentleman named Jacob in the Spreaker chat room. And he is asking, Keith, can you elaborate on mind over matter? Do you mean a type of psychokinesis?
Essentially, yes. But way beyond. When we're talking about that particular mind over matter, we are talking about taking the subatomic particles, the quantum particles, rearranging them via thought alone to physically manifest a physical object, and to pull a chair out of literally nothing so that you can sit on it. Okay, where you can literally, somebody could break their arm, and that person, the same person with the broken arm, could mentally reorganize the cells in the body to correct the damage. Mm-hmm. Kind of like Wolverine on steroids.
Interesting. That would be kind of weird to see.
So, I mean, you're looking at the ability to physically create from simple thought, take the atoms around you and turn them into something else. Because energy is never destroyed, it is simply altered.
Let's get to another question here. Susan wants a follow-up to her mantid sighting in meditation. She says, I sense it during Qigong class. Are mantids connected to Chinese culture?
Absolutely. Primarily because that's, they've been around Chinese culture, well, simply put, since before China became China. And it's very much like the Quatl are down in Mexico, down in the Central Americans. Okay, the Chitauri are over in Africa. You've got your leprechauns that are in Ireland. The mantid are they used to be quite prevalent over in Chinese culture and Chinese, interactions. Which is why if you're going into the Qigong meditation, you're going to end up pulling that kind of thought line. That kind of an image, if you will.
Understandable. Do you find though that certain races are connected to certain different types of meditation?
Absolutely. Understand that everything reacts to vibration, to sense, to sounds. And when you're meditating, you literally are accessing or matching your frequency to another frequency. And since every race has a variant on the way their brain is configured, the different types of races will pick up different senses. It's kind of like people see in one spectrum, dogs see in another. Okay, they also hear at different levels. Same with the different races. And when you're dealing with meditation, you're dealing with the quantum matrix. Okay, with the quantum magnetic flux. And that's what the other races are tapping into. Now, bear in mind, not every race works in the same fashion. Okay, like Martokians, you can think all you want. If you don't open your mouth, they're not going to understand what you're referring to. Because they're not telepathic. Okay. But yeah, that's why the different meditations work on different races. And of course, you may find that a Westerner practicing Qigong may have one type of race tap in, but because the Westerner's thought process and their vibratory rate is different than an Easterner's, the Easterner may draw a different type of entity, catching a different one's attention. I hope that doesn't confuse things too terribly much.
Not at all. Not at all, Keith. But I'm trying to figure out, and where I'm trying to go with this line of questioning is what type of connection can happen between meditation and extraterrestrial contact. I think of a guy down in California who literally stares up at the stars, clears his heart chakra, his soul chakra, and concentrates on a part of the sky, and that's where he focuses on to have ships show up.
Yep.
And I've tried his methods personally, and I have had him work at times. So
which makes total sense.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously there has to be some type of connection, Keith, that absolutely puts a clear, concise connection from the human mind or spirit or soul, wherever it's coming from, straight through to an extraterrestrial contact, being able to pick up that human signal.
And ultimately, that is exactly the issue. The reason that, like, what we're now talking about is quantum harmonics. Okay, in all fairness, we're talking about subquantum harmonics, but basically what's happening is he's aligning enough of the energy in his body to create a signal that is strong enough to see it. Strong enough for them to see it. And if you happen to be in that mindset, and I'm referring to the off-worlder, happen to be in the mindset of, let's see if we can get some sort of communication line going, they're going to watch for that kind of contact. Okay. And this guy in the States you're referring to clearly has figured it out. Which is a good thing. It's fantastic. Just be grateful he didn't grab one of the ones that would have ended his whole experiment really fast.
Well, I mean, there is a sense that there has to be some sort of connection.
Absolutely.
Would that be on a spiritual level or a mental level, Keith?
Try that again?
Would that be on a spiritual level or a mental level?
Well, in this case, they're actually the same thing. Because you're combining the two in order to bring the harmonics into play. The spiritual focus takes on the subquantums. But you can't generate the subquantum from the human genome if you don't bring the mental side into alignment. Okay, so clearly this guy, much like you, does not have any interest in exploiting the off-worlders or trying to, get something from them aside from contact. Okay, he clearly doesn't have, if you will, a negative agenda. Okay, he's not trying to figure out some get-rich-quick method of let's catch an alien or let's hunt a Sasquatch. He's looking at it going, I want to make contact. I want my own form of proof that I'm not actually losing my mind.
Mm-hmm. Jacob is asking, can human beings at present access subquantum realities?
Yes. They just don't know it. The quantum magnetic flux it's kind of a complicated setup to try and understand for most people, but people because people they've got higher senses that they really don't know they've got. Because most humans look at it and go, simply put, psychic phenomenon is a farce. Okay? Or they're just reading people and they're not willing to look at that simple, very surface ability. You have to be able to accept that is a real thing and is really usable before the logical brain will get out of its own way or start working in favor of it in order to actually access the quantum realities. Now, let us understand that the quantum reality is reality. It's not a sub-reality. It's not a fake reality. It is simply an extension of the current reality. Okay, take a look at in simplest terms, modern physics says the bumblebee can't fly. And the standing joke is nobody bothered telling the bumblebee. Okay, but when you realize you can fly in spite of what the physics say, all of a sudden you've gone into a quantum reality, into an off reality. But it's still a real third-dimensional ability. And before anybody comes to that brilliant conclusion, no, I've forgotten how to fly, so I'm working on it.
Well, We have about 7 minutes left with you. Hi, Ozzy Andy. Yes, I see you in the chat room. You're late. You've been arriving late lately, Ozzy Andy. You know there was a time change, even in Australia. Either way.
Yeah, you know they're trying to eliminate that?
I hope
it's
so.
It's actually written out.
I really hope that they do, because I am absolutely sick and tired of time change. Now, I don't get affected by it. I'm not one of these people, oh, it's been 2 weeks, man. I'm still feeling the time change. Nothing like that at all. You know, I just think it's stupid. It's stupid.
Well, it is. It is. And especially when you think that, from my understanding, it was put in place to accommodate the farmers on the prairies, and they don't change their time.
I know.
Well, you know. But no, there are so many. That came out really well, didn't it? There are so many variations on what is possible out there, and when we talk about the ability of the human body and accessing the quantum realities and what the off-worlders can do, when it comes to healing, all of it can be accelerated way beyond what modern medicine can do if people will accept it's possible. Okay, I'm living proof that you can heal broken bones faster than 6 months, because I snapped my arm back March 3rd of 2004, and I snapped it to the point they had to bolt it, and quite literally I had the bone healed in 9 days. Okay, so I'm living proof it can be done. Well, if I can do it, so can you.
Oh, there you go. There you go with the old, if I can do it, so can you. Come on. That's an infomercial line, man.
But it's also a real line.
I know.
The only thing that, in all fairness, the only thing that I'm aware of that I do, that there are people that unassisted have not got a prayer of doing, is I can be male. I am. And females without assistance are not going to become male.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Other than that, we're pretty much open.
Let's get to a question from Deb here. She is asking more on a spiritual side. Are incubus becoming more like shapeshifters, easily transforming?
No. But they are very good at making you think they are. What they do is they modify your optic receptors so that you think they look different. But it's not a question of them physically doing it. So much easier than doing a complete metabolic modification.
Apparently, the time change doesn't affect Australia. I'm getting in trouble from Amber and the SOR Space Travelers. Slapping my hand. And I know there's cheesecake in her fridge right now, being guarded by her vicious dog, so that way us Canadians can't get down to Aussie land and steal her cheesecake that's homemade. Still bothered by that.
You really do have a problem with that, you know that?
Yeah, I want some damn cheesecake, man. Blueberry or strawberry cheesecake, I'm in. I am in, man. Keith, I would even share some with you. Not much, maybe a little teaspoon, but I would share some with you.
What I do to you that you would do that to me?
Well, because you're a friend.
In case you hadn't noticed, I'm not impressed with cheesecake.
How could you not be impressed with cheesecake?
The same way I can be unimpressed with chocolate.
Okay, the chocolate thing I get. The chocolate thing I get. You know? Wonder if Carl will go pick up some of that cheesecake for us.
Yeah, but he'll probably keep it.
You know what? You're right. He is a jerk that way. He's an absolute jerk that way. Oh, damn Carl. We got about 4 minutes left. Where are we taking this for the final 4 minutes, my friend? 4 minutes seems so long.
Well, in all fairness, especially if you start measuring it in seconds, just something to keep in mind. I mean, we get into these shows and we always end up with a whole pile of questions that go unanswered, either because you've got so many coming in that we just can't get to them, or you overlook them. I mean, I can't, I don't know what yours is. I've got 3 screens in front of me right now, and trying to watch 2 while I'm talking to you is a problem. And yet, I don't know how many you've got. So the point being this: for the people that have questions that don't get answered, for pity's sakes, 2 things can be done. Either send the question, I'm sure Dave will put the questions on, will get them forwarded to me, or send them directly to me, either through Facebook or through Inner Voice Enterprises at yahoo.ca, and I'll be more than happy to get back to you on them. Because quite frankly, there's a lot of questions. I'd love to carry on with them, but we run out of time. So I mean, it's just a thought for the people that have questions that they really want to look at. And I've noticed a couple of people, and I noticed it on every one of the shows, that they'll get into a topic or they'll get into a conversation and they really want to ask a question, but they don't even know where to begin with it. So this is just a way of opening that door. And besides that, many, people will go, well, I don't want to ask a stupid question. Well, understand, many of the questions people ask, there are literally hundreds of people in the audience that are asking the same question and thinking, I don't want to ask a stupid question.
Speaking of questions, let's get to 2 quick questions here. Last question from Deb at #SpacedOutRadio. We can hold it to 10 seconds or less. Keith, do you ever see ghosts interact with aliens?
Yes. Quite frankly, their sick bays and their hospitals are just as hectic with the discorporate, with the non-corporeal, as humans are.
Mm-hmm. All right, and my own personal question after this, because I'm actually going to go outside as soon as this show is done, and I'm going to go UFO gazing with a couple of my buddies. Am I going to see anything? Am I going to get some action out there?
Very probable. If you go on your deck and look at your balcony door, look out from that, because I don't know which way that faces. So we'll call stepping onto your balcony door through the glass doors.
Yeah.
Look straight out. We'll call that north. Okay. You want to look northeast at approximately 10 or at approximately 2 o'clock.
Okay. I'm going to go look.
Okay, but obviously look up.
We got clouds here, man. We got clouds. Are they going to pop through the clouds? Are they going to pop through the clouds?
Quite probably, although you may question that side of it. But if you focus on it right, you can actually split the clouds so you can see them.
Awesome. Keith, once again, how can people contact you on social media?
Well, on social media, you can find me on Facebook. Okay, and if you do, Ronald Keith Andrews is my full name, and you'll see a little wooden UFO actually for my icon. You can contact me at Inner Voice Enterprises at yahoo.ca, or I'm pretty certain that you can actually contact me through you at Spaced Out Radio. I'm sure that will pass the information on.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the easiest ways to get a hold of me at this point.
For the record, I'm going to say this. My backyard faces the northeast. So it's going to be an easy look tonight, my friend. Thank you. Appreciate that. Our Keith Andrews, you hold on. Keith is here the first Friday of every month, giving us the ET connection. We appreciate Keith's time. If you're listening in on the Spaced Out Radio side, you hear Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot takes us home every single night on this program. We want to say thank you to everyone who participated in the chat rooms tonight. Thank you so much for your great questions. We love them. Keith loves them. And I know you love the answers. Tomorrow and Sunday, James Tyson, Elizabeth Anglin, they are back with Spaced Out Weekend, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. Want to thank everyone listening in at WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Newton, Georgia, Renegade Talk Radio, Revolution Radio, and the United Public Radio Network, live on 107.7 FM in New Orleans. Good to have you along with us for the ride. Remember, you can follow us all over social media. We are everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And we even use snail mail around here every now and again. My bag is packed. I'm out of here. You have a good weekend. Much appreciate your time, space travelers. Mr. Bumblefoot, take us home. Before he does, tell a friend. We want to rock this. We want to own the night. And it all starts with you. Mr. B, thank you for a good night. Here we go.